Welcome to this week's video where I'm going to share with all of you how I evaluate apartment complexes to know if they're going to be a good investment. How do I calculate cash flow? How do I calculate returns? And at the same time, how do I know I'm going to provide a service to my investors and most of all the residents? And for those that are following me, you'll know that I made an offer on this apartment complex behind me a few weeks ago, and I finally got it under contract. We got our terms, purchase price, and conditions all set up. So let's go and find out how I can help you find your own apartment deals. Hi everyone, and I'm going to go over how I evaluate an apartment complex to know if it's going to be a good investment. And before I go into that, first, let's take a look at some of the terms that I'm going to use when I'm showing you the numbers. And there's plenty of other terms out there. This video is not going to be for that, but in order for everyone to kind of understand what I'm talking about, I wanted to bring these terms up for you. So the first one I'm going to talk about is your cap rate, short for capitalization rate. And this essentially means, what is your return if you were to buy a piece of commercial real estate cash? So if you purchase something for $10 million and your NOI is $1 million, then your cap rate is 10%. Very basic. It's a good way to know where you are buying that property in relation to the rest of the market. So if other like properties are selling for 7% cap rate and you have yours and bought yours for 9%, then you can in confidence know that you're buying below market value. The next thing that I want to go over is what's called the net operating income. My mentor Grant Cardone says it best when he says you live and die by the NOI, and that is so true for commercial. Because if you look at kind of the quick equation for cap rate, your NOI is at the top here. So if you can purchase that and you can increase your NOI, then the value of your property goes up. And that's something that you can force, right? So if you can increase your income, your gross income, by increasing rents, by putting in a laundromat, putting in vending machines, whatever you have to do to increase your net operating income, that will force the value of your property. That's how you hear people saying, well, I was able to double my equity in a few months or a year. It's because of this forcing the NOI up, which then increases the value of your property, right? And then finally, the last term I want to go over is your cash on cash return. This cash on cash return is your flow every month, right? So when you hear about how you can have multiple streams of income with real estate, this is where this comes from. So I'm going to show you how you calculate that, how I look at deals, how I manipulate the numbers in order to make an offer that I'm confident will take care of me and will take care of my investors. So let's go look at a deal. All right, guys, now that we've got some of the terms out of the way, let's take a look at a deal that was sent to me a couple weeks ago, and let me show you why it's important to evaluate it, why it's important to actually have some experience when you're underwriting and evaluating the numbers. Every broker is going to make every property look like a hero. This particular one is an 18-unit property built close to a hospital. Like when I say close, right across the street. It was perfect for nursing students, medical students, hospital staff. I mean, it was in a prime location. It was built in the middle of 2017, so it's still fairly new, which I would classify it as a Class A property. And if you look, the cap rate is 6.9%. Most Class A properties in most markets are going to be 5% or less. So when the broker put a 6.9% cap rate for this, it got a lot of attention. But let's look at the numbers and let's see if we believe it to be a true 6.9% cap rate for our investment style. So again, just some of the basics. 18 units. It had an asking price of $1.6 million. I always look at a 25% down payment. Now, I know some people out there like to do 20%, but again, it is your level of risk, it is your investment strategy. My investment strategy, I always put 25% down. The next piece is the price per unit. As I mentioned earlier, your cap rate is a good way to see where you fall in the market on whether you're buying below, above, or at market value. So this is another, quick way. Again, I would never just focus on one or the other and say that one or the other is the best way to judge if you're in the, where you're at. But between the combination of those things, you should be able to have a good idea of where you fall. The next thing I want to is gross income. This was all rental. It's a small complex, so there's not much else just looking at it as far as what they did for their income. It was all rent, so they were making about $150,000 per year. Now we'll look at the expenses. So the expenses from landscaping, maintenance, the common points, which is your electric and sewer, again, the lighting within the apartment complex and the hallways, the sewer and water for your plants and your sprinkler systems and whatnot, all fall under there. Taxes and insurance, again, you can get different quotes for your insurance to help make sure you can decrease your expenses while having the same coverage. I mean, you never know, but definitely go out for quotes to help with that cost. All of these together came up to $38,790, right? And then I calculated further, and I do a price per unit per year, because I own properties in Indiana, Texas, and whatnot, and those different states have different elements that will increase or decrease expenses. The biggest one is weather. Right? Texas happens to get good weather all year versus Indiana, where you have your freeze and thaw cycle. That's much more pronounced. So this number, your price per unit per year, is going to change depending on the market that you're in. So having a good mentor, having some experience around that is going to help make sure you know that your expenses are realistic for that market. The other thing that when you're going through, what threw me off was there's no property management. I don't manage properties, I manage the asset. So an 8% off of the gross income is immediately going to go towards expenses because I'm not going to do that. So I already know that this cap rate is going to change for me if I were to buy it at this price. So again, I know the expenses are going to go up. I know that expenses in the areas that I'm investing in are anywhere between $2,500 to $3,500. And if it's that low, I know I have to add more to be more conservative, to make sure I'm protecting myself and I'm protecting my partners when we get into a deal like this. So now let's look at, the numbers that outline the investment. So we have an NOI of $111,210. Cap rate of 6.9%. Again, for these numbers, and just glancing over it, 6.9% cap rate for a Class A is a beautiful number. But then, what's important to us, your cash on cash is a 6.8%. Right? So if all you do is leave your money in the bank and you're making 0.5%, maybe this 6.8% is exciting, but I'll tell you, most people are not going to want to partner with you if you can only give them a 6.8% return on their cash. The other part is the cash flow. So by deploying half of $400,000, you're going to make $27,029.03 per year. Again, not something exciting, not many things that investors are going to want to kind of partner with you on. But again, this is the numbers that the broker sent. Now let's take a look at the numbers we're actually going to use to help us determine a good purchase price. All right, guys, so now that we looked at the numbers the broker sent us, I'm going to go straight into the numbers that I used to make an offer on this deal and what my returns are going to be in order to know that I can cash flow this property and to know that I'm protecting my investors. So the first thing is the asking price. I made an offer of $1.25 million, which brought down the down payment, and it also brought down the price per unit. So with that price per unit, again, a Class A property in Texas, it's a good way to know that I'm actually buying this below market value. Again, it's not the only way to do it, but it's a way for you to look at your asset and say, where am I in relationship to the market? I didn't change any of the expenses. I'm not going to assume I can bring them down. I'm going to use the same. The next thing I added was management, all right? Because again, one of the things I mentioned, there's no management fee in that other property. So by adding the management fee, brings our yearly expenses to $50,000, $790. That breaks down to $2,800 per unit per year, which, as I mentioned in the last section, that is a number that I am comfortable with, right? Anywhere between 25 to 35, especially in Texas where we don't have the crazy weather like we do in India, like they do in Indiana. So with those, let's take a look at the investment numbers. NOI goes down to $99,210, which gives us a cap rate of 7.9%. Again, beautiful number if you're buying a Class A property in the state of Texas, right? It's, those are generally 5 to 6%. So by getting it closer to 8, you're getting a good deal. The other thing that I like to do is I like to stay within 8 and 9% cap rate. But for, case by case basis, you have to work that around because there's the gains are there. And for something that's Class A and something that you can possibly get below market value, definitely something to consider. Next is the cash on cash at 10.7%. Most investment vehicles now are giving you 8 to 10%, right? So what's great about real estate is that's just your cash on cash. It doesn't include your debt pay down, doesn't include equity, doesn't include the tax benefits that you get by owning real estate. So again, this 10% is just cash on cash. And when you do your research and you see all the other returns that you get from real estate, you're going to see how powerful real estate can be when you add it to your investment portfolio, your investment strategy. Again, these are the monthly returns that you can get, the yearly returns you can get in order to quit your job, get that second flow of income, or third or fourth, just to help you build your wealth and allow you to fund your life's purpose, whatever that case may be. Cash flow for this property is $33,400. Again, for the amount of capital that we're deploying to get into this asset, and for it to cash flow at 10% is, a good property, especially for Class A. I'll show you, again, some of the other properties that I'm getting into are at the 9 or 10% cap rates, and that takes a lot of cultivating the relationship with the seller. That takes a lot of time for you to be in it, but that's where you find the good deals, right? This was sent to a broker, by a broker. Who knows how many other people are in it. I submitted an LOI for this just to see where I land, right? Bring the seller to the table. The worst thing they can say is no, right? And it costs you nothing to put an LOI together, which an LOI is a letter of intent to buy. It costs you nothing. You could put them out there. You could bring people to the negotiating table, and at the end of the day, you need to be making offers in order for you to close on a property. I'm glad that other people that I have known, like from the Army, they're reaching out to me and they're saying, oh man, I've always thought about doing this. Thank you for putting these videos out. And I'm glad that I'm providing that value to you. So share this with other people. Give me a call. Let's catch up. I definitely want to know if we serve together what you're doing now. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text. My number's the same. And let's continue to grow as a community. And like I always mention, guys, definitely remember to keep growing, keep learning, and I'll see you at the top.